Let's take a little trip back in time. We're going to 1885. And no, we don't have a time machine. We've got something, honestly, way more personal. The actual diary of a Victorian draper, a guy named William Buckle. He's about to go on what was basically one of the very first package holidays. And his journal, well, it gives us a front row seat to the whole thing. It's pretty amazing. And you know how it all starts, right? With that classic question we've all asked a million times. Back in March of 1885, William turns to his friend Edward and just says, "So, where are we going for our holiday this year?" I mean, sound familiar? They were just two young guys working in London, and just like us, they were absolutely dreaming of an escape.
Now, you've got to remember, this was the age of steamships and brand new railways. The world was seriously starting to open up. So after kicking around a few ideas, I think they considered Scotland, even Norway. They landed on Switzerland, and they did it by picking a pre-planned tour that was being offered by the Great Eastern Railway Company. Yep, this was the package holiday Victorian style.
And when you look at their itinerary, wow, you can see just how ambitious this thing was. I mean, this was no leisurely stroll, not at all. It was a total whirlwind tour across Europe by boat and train, all designed to cram as much as humanly possible into just 2 weeks. This was their roadmap for adventure. But of course, the plan is one thing, right? The journey is something else entirely. And back then, just like today, just getting to your destination was an experience in itself, full of unexpected problems and those little wins. Their adventure really kicked off the second they stepped out of Liverpool Street Station. So, what's the first hurdle? Oh boy, the English Channel. The paddle steamer was pitching and rolling all over the place, and William writes that his appetite just completely vanished. He spent most of the trip on deck just trying to keep his stomach from doing cartwheels. It's a feeling I think a lot of us, unfortunately, can probably relate to. By dinner time, though, William was absolutely ravenous. He and about 80 other passengers head down to the saloon, totally expecting a feast. But instead, they got this. See, the steward had only planned for 40 people. The result? A cold, tiny, and just deeply, deeply unsatisfying meal. So what do? It's 1885. You get terrible service. You can't exactly leave a 1-star review on Yelp, right? Nope. You take direct action. Led by this other passenger, a guy named Lily, the grumpy diners decide to form a deputation to go and confront the steward. And their spokesman, Lily, he just lays down the law. They declared that this meal was not worth the advertised price of 3 shillings and 6 pence. In fact, they said it was an insult, and there was no way they were going to pay for what William so perfectly called an apology for a dinner. So the big question, what did they end up paying? Well, the steward, faced with this united and very unhappy crowd, he totally caved. Get this. The final price for the meal, and this includes a bottle of beer each for William and Edward, was just 9 pence. What a satisfying end to their very first travel drama. All right, so having survived the rough seas and that disaster of a dinner, William and Edward finally make it to Switzerland. And this is where the real cultural immersion starts. We're talking navigating foreign customs, their first awe-inspiring and, sometimes frustrating encounters with the Alps. One of the first cultural shocks for William came in the city of Bern. He was just amazed by how formal and polite everyone was. He literally watched a man ask a common soldier for the time, but he did it with so much respect, bowing and everything, that in England, you'd only see that for a general. It was a whole different world from the blunt manner he was used to back home. Okay, this next part is so relatable, it feels like it could have happened yesterday. They were super eager to see the famous animated clock tower in Bern, so they wait patiently, staring up at it. For 10 minutes, craning their necks, and nothing happens. It was only later they realized they'd been standing on the wrong side and had missed the entire show. A total classic tourist blunder. Then their journey across Lake Thun gives them another huge shock. William says he went below deck for just 5 minutes. 5 minutes. When he came back up, the lake, which had been as smooth as glass, had turned into a raging sea. What a powerful and, I'm sure, slightly terrifying introduction to just how unpredictable alpine weather can be. Okay, so the centerpiece of their whole trip was a multi-day stay in Interlaken. It's this beautiful spot nestled between 2 lakes, with an absolutely staggering view of the Jungfrau Mountain. This is where they finally get to settle in a bit, make some new friends, and really, truly experience the joys and the challenges of the mountains. At their hotel, the atmosphere was a little stiff at first, but that all changed when two women sat near them at dinner. First, there was Mrs. May, who William describes as a jolly American lady. And then her German companion Bertha, who apparently amused them to no end because she was always mixing up her English idioms. They hit it off right away and became evening companions. Now, hiking in 1885, that was a whole different ballgame. Forget about GPS or anything like that. They had a very limited grasp of German, so they had to rely on asking locals for directions. And you can just picture it, right? They'd ask, nach Giesbach, and they'd get a simple ja, followed by this long stream of directions they couldn't understand at all. It just left them as lost as they were before they asked.
And the physical effort? I mean, it was immense. Just think about it. They're dressed in their standard Victorian clothing, trying to climb these steep mountain paths. During his climb up the ridgy mountain, William writes that the heat and the sheer exertion made them perspire as we had never yet done. Wow, you can almost feel the struggle just reading that.
Well, all good things must come to an end, right? The final leg of their journey was one of those whirlwinds of trains and quick stops. But it was also a chance for them to kind of reflect on the absolutely incredible 2 weeks they just had. You know, their time up on the Rigi Mountain really captures the highs and lows of travel perfectly. After that grueling climb, they're rewarded with one of the most incredible, sublime views in all of the Alps. But then, dinner brings them crashing right back down to earth with a broccoli dish. The sauce, William says it tasted for all the world like melted candles of the most inferior kind. The sublime and the ridiculous, all in one meal.
The trip home from there was pretty much a blur. And I love William's honest, unfiltered reviews. He says Waterloo was a barren-looking place, basically boring, and only worth visiting so you could say you'd been. A final evening in Brussels, listening to a concert in a park was a definite highlight. But then they were so rushed in Antwerp, they completely missed seeing the main cathedral. Finally, they arrived back in London exactly 2 weeks after they left.
So, after all that, the rough seas, the bad food, the hiking, the new friends, what did William take away from it all? Well, his final summary is just so simple, but it's really profound. He wrote that the trip had restored their health, and most importantly, it had considerably enlarged their minds. I mean, isn't that what every traveler hopes to come home with? So in the end, yeah, William Buckle's world of steamships and confusing signposts feels like a long, long time ago. But think about it. His desire for adventure, his frustration with bad food, the pure joy of making new friends, and that search for an enlarged mind. Is any of that really so different from why we travel today? Reading his 140-year-old diary really makes you stop and wonder, what is the real unchanging core of travel?